Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Every now and then I hear a story where I think to myself, wow, I'm surprised that hasn't happened before. And so Jeremy sent me notes and Steve, check this out from WHTM. Pennsylvania Wendy's manager allegedly created a fake employee so that they could collect the fake employee's pay. So Jared Weaver wrote this. It happened in Lancaster County, where an audit of the Wendy's there found that a former general manager allegedly stole almost $20,000 from the restaurant by creating a fake employee. According to the charging documents, the woman allegedly clocked in and out as the ghost employee while also just doing her job as manager. And that happened from July of 21 to April of 22, and then had the paychecks go into her bank account. You know, good help is so hard to find that sometimes a fake employee is better than none at all, right? Paychecks from the fake employee showed police that $19,898.15 was allegedly stolen by the manager, who also created 128 shifts that worker worked. So it's a hard-working worker, never missed a day, never complained, never existed. That last one will get you. Detectives learned later that the manager would be the only one who could create the shifts, and that, of course, kind of hurts her, I think. An insurance company also reported that they lost more than $15,000 from the theft. Police noted in their documents. When other managers were questioned about this particular worker, police said some could not remember working with him, while one reported that they met the worker and that the manager did provide a time card for the employee but never actually worked with him. This should remind you of a MASH episode by right about now. The manager admitted to police during a video call in April that she created the employee and had the paycheck set up to go into her Cash App account. And that's according to charging documents. So that'll also hurt your case if you've admitted to wrongdoing. She faces a felony charge of theft by deception. That's the end of the story. So for those of you who watched MASH at any time, it's still in reruns right now on MeTV or Cozy TV. I always get those two confused. But you'll recall that in season 1, the 15th episode was called Captain Tuttle. Captain Tuttle. And in the episode, for reasons far too complicated to explain, Hawkeye decides that they need to create a fictional soldier who's also in their outfit. And they have a good reason for this. And as the story gets more and more convoluted, it gets to the point where they have to either produce this fictional soldier or kill him off, which you can do in war pretty easily. And so it's a very, very funny episode. It's one of the funniest episodes of MASH. In later years, I kind of thought that the writing slipped a little, but the first season was pretty good. And this particular episode, many people will cite this as their favorite episode. Now, in later years, I learned, and I did not know this. I did not know this until later, but the Captain Tuttle episode is based on a Russian novella. So there was actually a story written by a Soviet author who talked about, in war, some people who created a fake soldier. And it got to the point where the problem was they couldn't create an actual soldier, but they had the paperwork for the soldier, okay? And so the story then fell apart, and they actually made that into a movie in Russia. And so a lot of people who hear this go, well, I did not know that. Well, you didn't know it because the movie never got much airplay over here. I've never actually heard of it. But the story is called Lieutenant Kije. And I could be mispronouncing it because I suspect it's a Russian name, Kije, with the accent over the E. But again, that's the basis for Captain Tuttle. And so in the episode where they invent this Captain Tuttle, they go into Radar's office and create a fake personnel file for him. And then anytime somebody's looking for him, you just missed him, he's over in surgery. You go into surgery, you just missed him, he's over at the mess hall. But he's around here somewhere. And because 2 or 3 people who are in on it claim that they've talked to this guy, and he's actually a very, very nice guy, very smart, very tall and good looking too, it gets to the point where people who've never met him, like Colonel Blake, insist that, oh, no, actually, he's a nice guy, and I met him too. I've talked to him. And Frank and Margaret have met him as well. And then, of course, when he dies, they invite Pierce to step up and say a few words because Pierce was his best friend. And Frank turns to Margaret, hot lips, and goes, that's not true. He was my best friend. So I was reminded of that when I read this story. But I'm actually surprised it doesn't happen more often. But as you can imagine, if you're going to create an employee, presumably you need to also create like a social security number, right? So, a name, a social security number, and they got to fill out, W-2s or whatever it might be, various tax documents. And so if money gets withheld and then gets submitted to the feds for taxes being withheld, what happens if they kick it back and go, there's no such person, or do they just keep the money? Now I know many here say, Steve, I just assume they keep the money. Does the IRS ever kick back money and go, this money was sent to us in error? Don't know. But it does seem odd that somebody would do this and do it for this length of time. And then, of course, when all falls apart, that, I did this. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, it does appear that the Wendy's manager in Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, created a fake employee, gave this fake employee a whole bunch of shifts for which they got paid. And by they, I mean the manager who created the fake employee, and that's where the money went. And that's, of course, the other problem is that you can create fake paperwork and stick it in a file, and it might be hard to figure out where the paperwork came from. It's fairly easy to track the money, where the money went, and who got the money. So that's where it falls apart. So it's unfortunate that things like this do happen. I am surprised it doesn't happen more often. I really am. But it made the news because it doesn't happen that often. So I'm surprised by that. So Jeremy, thanks for sending it. And of course, like I said, it reminds me of Captain Tuttle, the MASH episode, Captain Tuttle, loosely based on a Russian novella of some note. So there you go. Pennsylvania Wendy's manager allegedly made fake employee and collected the pay of that employee, but then allegedly got caught and is facing charges. That's all from WHTM. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. I started out with nothing, and I still have most of it.